All right, well, we want to welcome everybody to our Conscious Reading Book Club, and today we're going to begin having discussion on Chapter 1, a very good book by Dr. Mitchell Gibson called 9 Insights for a Happy and Successful Life. As we all know, Dr. Gibson is a pioneer in the interface of science and consciousness. Particularly, he is an expert on the spiritual dimensions of the soul. Some of his other books that he has written are a novel called The First Darkness, The Human Body of Light, and Signs of Mental Illness. He also have others that I don't have in front of me right now. I actually have the books, but I don't have them in front of me. One of my favorite is The Human Body of Light, and then he has another book on spiritual gifts. But tonight we're going to have our discussion here on 9 Insights, and we have other people who are with us by way of email and other forms of media. Let me introduce the people around the table who will participate in the conversation. To my right, Shirley Hampton. Say hi to everybody, Shirley.
Hi.
Okay. This is Frances. What should I say, Frances?
Love.
Frances Love, and her daughter Florence Wright. Shelley Ingram. Say hi, Shelley. And Kim Strickland. Kim is actually the person who organized the book club for us, and so she actually interacts with everybody via email. Again, this is the contact information is you can go to Facebook, the Grace Evangelical Baptist Church Facebook page. You can communicate with us through the mindofgracepb@gmail.com. Anyway, let's get started. Great book, 9 Insights for a Happy and Successful Life. The overall theme of the first chapter is regularly giving away a small portion of your wealth prevents the energy of chaos from building up in your life. So that's that. So let's start off discussion. Everybody had a chance to read chapter 1. So tell me what you what is your overall opinion and feelings about what you read in chapter 1? Anybody? I'm not going to call out anybody's name. Just who want to jump in to say.
Well, me personally, it made me analyze my thoughts about wealth and poverty. It just made me think what I really thought about money or having money, people that have money, people that don't have money. Just the whole concept of money being energy. So it just made me think about where my money comes from. Just analyze my whole attitude towards wealth and poverty.
Okay. Anybody else? Overall insights on 9 Insights.
Well, it just reinforced a sermon that you did once before, where you introduced the fact that money has energy, and this just gave a little bit more details, a little more in depth than what your sermon had already enlightened me to.
Okay. Anybody else?
All right. I guess I was going to say the same thing, that for me it just reaffirmed teachings that, I've grown up with in church, about giving. But it gave, like Ms. Hampton said, a deeper explanation of why, it's important to give the energy, exchange that's behind it. And it just also reaffirmed a debate that I've heard in churches a lot of times about the importance of giving money opposed to the importance of giving your time and your service.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that Dr. Gibson touched on in the book that, I think when we get to that part or whatever, it may be something that we can discuss, but it's something that I know I've heard a lot of people bring up before.
Absolutely.
Is it, as important to give your time as it is, if you're giving your money?
Right. Okay. Florence, Francis, do y'all have any overall insights on what you read so far?
Well, I guess I haven't read the entire chapter, but with the money, it's kind of funny that Shelley was saying, but I was talking with a lady, and she was saying some churches, and specifically the church she goes to, she said when they pass the basket around for tithes and offering, you know, people are looking to see if you're going to put some money in there. But she said, if you don't have money to put in there, as long as you're giving your time, she said that's your offering. And, you know, I looked at it as, you know, you're right. If you're doing something and you're doing it with joy, then that's your offering. That's you giving, you know, something. But, and I guess
now we're going to discuss that part because I definitely I have a problem with that concept. Idea that, well, I'm not going to give money, but I'll give time.
Well, no, because I think the thing about it is, if you don't have the money to
honestly
give,
don't have it.
We talked about that in our staff meeting one time. If you don't have the money to give, and I'm not saying you don't give anything,
right.
but there are different levels of giving.
Yeah, the question comes in, why is it that you don't have money?
Ms. Hampton is a baller. She got lots of money. She got lots of money. You know, I still got baby money.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get to where she is. So my level of giving may not be as much as hers is, but I try to make up for.
Okay.
But it still has the same value.
Right.
It has the same value.
Right.
But looking at money with energy,
it does say give a small portion of what you have. Right.
But with it being energy, I guess I need to slow down because Lord continuously bless me with money, but I'm always broke. So
well, see, that might be another issue.
That's in here too.
That might be another issue. Well, yeah. Okay. Anyway, Francis, you want to say anything?
I agree with what you said.
Okay. Let me say again. By the way, we do have other people who are part of this discussion. Kim, can you name some other people that are not here physically but with us energetically?
We've got about 25 people signed up on the email with the book. So to name them individually, I would have to try to.
Well, I know some people off the top of my head. Sanaya, I'm about to say Sanaya Dean. I want to welcome her to our conversation. Sanchia McDougall. Crystal White. Joseph. Webb. Who else we have?
Roberto.
Pichiera. We also have Alexis Skinner.
We miss you.
Who else we have?
Cindy. Tammy. I think Tammy was on the list.
Daniel
Mays. Sue May.
Gloria.
Okay.
Pritchard.
Deirdre
Ginyard. Yeah, she actually made a comment that we're going to bring up here in a few minutes.
All right. Felicia Fain.
Okay, Felicia. Hi, Felicia.
Did we say Gloria Pritchard? Our friend
Gloria Pritchard, yeah.
Happy anniversary to your parents.
Who else we have?
Todd Jackson.
Don't know him, so that's
Jocelyn.
a new face.
Hey, Jocelyn.
Okay. Jocelyn Maroney. Okay.
Lawrence. Oh, Rhonda. We gotta say Rhonda's name.
Rhonda. Yeah.
Let's see. Chris Ray.
Okay.
Daniel Mays.
Yeah, we mentioned him.
Judith Walker Miles.
That's my cousin, Judith Walker Miles.
Latoya Martin.
That's my sister-in-law.
Some of our local family that couldn't be with us today: Katrina Howard, Cal Hartsfield, Lawrence Polk, Senior.
Okay. Yeah, not little LL.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, let's get into. That's good. Happy to have you all here, and we know as we go on, more people will be here and be a part of the process. Want to say hi to Dr. and Mrs. Gibson.
Hello.
Everybody say hi to them because they're with us too, and so we're happy to have them. Now let's get into the whole concept. Giving away a small portion of your wealth, he says, prevents the energy of chaos from building up in your life. Now, what that is based upon is the idea that the money that we have holds energy. And the money that we have is holding the energy from whence it came. Now, Dr. Gibson mentioned some of the negative, chaotic energy that money tends to pick up because money is energy. He mentioned 5 sources where they come from. One was drug trade. I think the next one was slave trade. The next one was the sex trade. than gambling and war.
Right.
War being, I think, the number one way in which money is generated. So the idea is that when we have money, when we get money, we, by association of possessing the money, also possess the negative, chaotic energy that generated the money. So the idea is that by giving away a small portion of the money, we, I guess in one sense, cleanse or remove the negative karma from the money, and therefore that chaos does not come into our lives. So, what's your thoughts on that? Is that a new concept, or that's something that it's kind of surprising to hear?
When I first read the insight, it was very interesting to me for somebody to actually bring that up, that this is where money comes from, because the first thing I thought about was things that I heard about, giving money in church or tithing, and I would hear like some people in the church or preachers say, don't bring that gambling money in here, or they don't want no drug money in here, and it's just like, all money comes from these. You don't know where the money came from, and to hear people judge other people about where they got their money from,
or how they made
how they made the money was interesting to me. It made me think about it in a different way.
Yeah.
Anybody want to say anything about that? Because I think that those the minister made
about that, didn't you? About you had a question about that, about whether or not the money.
But if we use this concept and give a portion of that money away, then it's kind of like recycling or cleansing it.
Right.
That's true. But they don't think that way, because their whole thing is we don't want any of that gambling money, or don't bring any of that drug money in here.
But isn't that some way that desire or that statement by some ministers, not all ministers believe that, is an indication of the principle that they're saying, no, where that money came from is tainted. Right. Or how that money was made is tainted. So to a large extent, they almost, you could argue that they are actually saying some of the same things in a small way, similar to what Dr. Gibson has said.
But with that concept, if it's a drug person or a sex trade or whatever, by them giving away, isn't that helping them?
Well, I don't know about that.
I'm just asking.
Because if they're still, to me, if you're...
Restate her question. I don't understand.
She said, if I'm selling drugs and I put some of my money in church, is that not cleansing it in some way?
Or preventing
keeping the negative chaos
out
I
of your
don't
life.
think so, because you're still doing it.
It is.
You're still doing it.
It's the same concept,
but you're still living a life.
But you still work every day. You still accumulating money from drugs.
You give 10% of your drug money away and go get 100% more.
But why wouldn't it prevent the chaos?
Right.
If you use this concept,
I don't think that it's possible because the idea is that you're trying to balance that debt. You're trying to get to a point where you're trying to cleanse, all of the debt, karmic debt that you've built up from doing it.
But if
you're still doing the same thing, then
you keep giving money.
And you're still giving.
But you're still doing the same thing. I think it might cleanse your money, but you still not covered.
Well, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about releasing we're talking about cleansing, releasing some of the negative energy from the money, though.
Okay,
right?
well, it's cleansing it in the system, but not
what you're talking about, what you're actually talking about is removing the chaos
from your life,
from yourself,
right?
By association with the money that you have received.
And I think that there are people who are in those industries who feel that that's what they're doing. But me personally, I don't think that that's something that you're able to do if you still not.
Then the concept of it is not correct.
No, that it says. It doesn't say that this is a cleanse all. Like if you give some of your money away, then you saved. Now you good.
Not necessarily saved.
You good and you have no karma to deal with or whatever. If I go,
it doesn't say that. Because that's even with
if I kill, I'm gonna kill everybody at this table. I'm gonna start with Flo. Kill Flo, and then I'm gonna give her mama some money. Does that make it better? I still did it.
No. So you got two things going.
Okay, so now, right. So now I mean, but okay, so now her mama's still not better. I feel bad. So I'm gonna go and help out some little poor kids.
But did you make
then
any
I
money
get,
for your kids?
You know what?
I still got
Did
the
you make
same
any money?
spiritual problems going
You
on.
know what?
And
You
I'm
actually make a good point. You make a good
I
point.
still got the same spiritual
Because-
problem going
yeah.
on. I'm gonna kill Kim. I'm
But
gonna give you
see,
some more money.
but see, that actually, but no.
No.
Shelly actually makes a good point. I just thought about something. Because what is money laundering?
Right.
And why do they call it
Watch
money laundering?
Cleanse the money.
Because, if you, steal some money or gain some money in an illegal way,
Mm-hmm.
and you send it through the church or through some school or some
Right.
institution,
Right.
Some
or
legitimate business.
some legitimate
Use the
business.
money.
That's why these legitimate businesses fail. Because they're in with crooked.
You're not giving it away. In that case, it's
Right.
like you're investing it.
That's
you're not
true.
giving it away.
That's
That's the same
That's a
thing.
no,
that
there's a
goes back
difference.
to the question that he said
There's a
earlier
difference
about
between giving
the
and
importance of your
investing.
intentions when you give the money away.
It's a difference between giving and investing. If you give
But
it,
what about what you just said about the intentions of why you're doing it? In
well,
other
your
words,
intention is to cleanse it, then no, it's not. It's
Okay.
not good.
Okay.
If that's
So
your intention.
If I'm a drug dealer and I'm just giving the money, because I'm trying to get it, let me get some of this off of me. Like going back to we talked about with the kids at Teen Challenge to 1,000 words, and remember the scene where he gave his watch
Yeah.
to the nuns is Eddie Murphy movie, and
Credit card,
he
everything.
was trying to save his life, and he felt that if he did something, if he gave enough stuff away, he could get his life back. And so he took his Rolex off trying to give it to the nuns, and nothing worked because it
Well,
wasn't.
that's just like the
he was
concept.
doing it just to save his life.
Well, that's
But-
like the concept of people thinking they can work their way to heaven.
That's right.
Working in the church.
Yeah.
They think that
And
that's
you
how
have
they.
people that give to the church that just give money because that's just what they're supposed to. They're not really giving it because they want to give it. They're not
even
giving
just
it.
the church, but
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
since we're using that example, they
Right.
just, well, I'm supposed to give 10%, so
Yeah,
let me just
cheerful
give to
giver.
right.
let
They
me
just-
let me go back to something more basic. The book is called 9 Insights for a Happy and Successful Life. Okay, and we're talking about money. So, are we equating happiness and success with money? What does it really mean to be happy? And what does it really mean to be successful? And what relationship does money have with happiness and success?
Well, on the email that I sent out in the first question that I had on there, Merriam-Webster's dictionary gave a definition for energy as usually positive spiritual force, and I had never heard energy being described like that. Because I'm like, okay, if they're describing it as a positive spiritual force, what does that say about wealthy people, and what does it say about people that don't have money? And if that's true, do wealthy people possess some type of powerful or positive spiritual force?
What is wealth?
I think wealth is what gives you access to stuff. It gives you more choices.
Okay. So what does this have to do with being happy?
Your choices aren't as
Because I mean,
well,
is wealth and how much cash or money, United States dollar currency you have, do they go together? I mean, do you consider yourself wealthy?
I do.
Why do you consider yourself wealthy?
That was something I told you that yesterday, that I consider myself wealthy because I'm able to do over and above the things that I desire to do. If there's something that I wanted to do in the past few months, I've been able to do it, and I think that's wealth. I have the wealth of my health, of love of family and friends.
Okay.
I don't think that wealth is something that can just be constrained to money
Monetary.
and things, because when you think about people who are defined as wealthy, they probably have just as many, if not more, problems than people, you know, who are considered poor. You know.
So wealth is a type of energy,
Right.
positive energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I can agree with that.
You agree with that? Okay. Okay. So let's look at this even further. What are some of the? Let's talk about poverty. What are some of the attitudes that distinguish between people who have wealth consciousness versus people who have a poverty consciousness? Because we're saying that a person can have a lot of things, a lot of money, and still be poor energetically. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And a person can have not as many things and yet be wealthy energetically.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the attitudes? We're talking about this is energy and thought and consciousness. Then what are some of the attitudes that contrast wealthy people with poverty conscious people? Just throw it out there. You don't have to. Just what do you think?
I think you have to be careful when you talk about that, because those things can be reversed as well. It's like I heard somebody say once, you know, the saying that money can't buy you happiness. The response is only broke people say that. You know, and it's like, I think you just have to be careful, because, you know, if you're poor, you grow up with this idea that wealthy people are evil or they're crooked or something. You know, they poor, like, at least me, honestly,
Physically wealthy people.
Yeah, physically wealthy people. You grow up with this idea like there's something wrong with wealth, or you know, you really do. Because when I read this, I had to analyze my relationship with money, or what I thought about wealth, because usually that's what you hear, especially in our community, in my community. And as far as wealthy people, it's kind of hard to say because their attitude about money is totally different. So, I mean, of course you hear cases of wealthy people having problems, but poor people have problems as well. And I think poor people may highlight the torment of wealthy people to try to make us feel better. You know what I mean? Because that's what you grow up with. It's like, you know, money is the root of all evil. And you think about wealthy people being, you know, crooked and conniving and all this other kind of stuff. And you say things like, well, wealthy people are miserable and stuff like that to kind of make yourself feel better. Because like they say, you know, only broke people are the people that say money can't buy you happiness.
No,
You know?
I think that from
You know what I'm saying?
some people who have a lot of possessions will say the same thing too.
Right. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. It can go both ways. But
I mean, I think as far as that saying and that concept goes, it's just saying that that person just has to be, you just have to be a happy person. That's what it's saying. That you can't, just because you have money or just because you don't, doesn't mean that you're going to be one way or another. It's about that person. You know, I don't think it doesn't have, you know, and of course people say that, you know,
what?
People say money can't buy you happiness, but I mean, I'm not a billionaire, but I don't say money can't buy you happiness, because you know, on the other side, there's a saying that I saw that said money can't buy you happiness, but I'll be close to it sitting on the beach with a drink with an umbrella in it. I mean, you know,
money, yeah.
Right, yeah. I'm not, you know, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna be happy. It's like, you know, I'm on the beach with a drink with it, you know.
So what are some of the distinguishing thoughts or attitudes that people who have a wealth consciousness versus people who have poverty consciousness?
Right. Now I think that's a difference.
that's a different.
There's a difference in that, in saying people who are happy because they, you know, rich or poor.
So people who have wealth consciousness tend to be more happy and successful,
right, because
than those
you're
who have
talking
poverty
about,
consciousness.
you said consciousness.
That's
you
what I'm
said
talking
wealth
about.
consciousness,
Right.
not wealth. You
That's
didn't
right.
say anything about having physical money. You said
Absolutely.
people who have wealth consciousness. So when you go into that, people who have wealth consciousness, those are the people who have money and possessions and probably family and friends and, you know, a level of thinking that has gotten them to that point. They're not they're not living in a state of want.
So what is the? So I'm asking again.
They're not living in a state of want.
What are some of the ways in which people who have a consciousness of wealth contrast to people who have a consciousness of poverty?
They don't have these blocks where
Who is they?
wealth conscious people don't have a view of the world as I'm in a position of lack, or I can't do it, or I don't have enough resources to fulfill whatever it is I'm trying to do, or they just don't have a negative outlook on life about whatever it is they set out to try to accomplish. Whereas I think that people who don't have that they come up with every excuse in the world of why they can't succeed.
So is that the poverty conscious person?
Yeah.
I think that one of the big differences between a wealth conscious person and a poverty conscious person is that wealth conscious people view the world as an opportunity and their lives as abundance.
Mm-hmm.
They see abundance. They see a world that is supportive. They see the possibility and potentiality in themselves, in what they have, whereas the other view life from the standpoint of lack, from deficiency, not enough, fear, I'm not going to make it.
Right.
You know, Jesus tells a parable in Matthew 25 about these guys who were given various money, or what they call talent. And so you had one guy was given 5 talents, another guy was given 2, and one other guy was given 1.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who had 5 took his 5 talents, invested them, used them, and created 5 more. He increased his money 100-fold. The guy that did 2 did the same thing. He, from 2 talents, he created 2 more for whatever. And the guy that had 1 buried his. And when the master came back and asked them to give an account for what they did with their resources, the guy who had 5 and 2, they were rewarded by saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord." The guy who had 1 said, "Well, I was afraid, and I knew that you was a tough taskmaster, and well, he gave him the 1 that he had, that he was originally given." I think that is the story goes on to say that he called him a wicked and lazy servant. And I think that that's instructive because the guy didn't see the value of what he had. He saw what others had and reduced reduced what he had in light of what others had, and did not use what he had. He kept what he had and buried it. And I think that goes back to this book, 9 Insights, because only a wealth-conscious person can see the spiritual insight into giving what you have away. Because people who have a poverty conscience, no matter how much they have or how little they have, will hold on to it and hoard it, and do not understand that it is in that fear of loss and hoarding that they actually are holding on to negative karma.
Right. Because, there are wealthy people who are miserly and hold on to everything that they have and push people away because they think that they're after their money. And a lot of them end up, living miserable existences with all their money sitting in their house, and they die with all their money still sitting in their house, going to those people that they were trying to push away, their family and friends. And then at the same time, there are, the poverty conscious people who are living in a state of can't get out, steady on their wheel.
Never have enough.
Right.
Limited resources.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
make a correction. I am a wealth conscious person, and I'm not broke.
That's right.
Because I guess I'm in fact conscious because all my bills are paid. I may not have the money that I want in my pocket, the cash I want in my pocket, but I'm not broke. So I wanted to correct that because I guess I'm being conscious and being wise with my money because all my bills are paid. I have gas in my car, food in my refrigerator, you know. So I'm not broke.
Well, see, that actually goes into the fact of what do you consider wealth?
Yeah.
What did you consider that
Yeah.
you have that is in abundance?
Yeah.
Or yeah, like what you just said.
Yeah.
And I think if we only look at what we have in our bank account, we are short-sighting ourselves. There are
Yes,
other
you're
things
right,
that we
you're
have.
Right.
Go ahead.
I think one of the things that we've talked about a lot of times is that people don't consider when you consider your wealth, when we talk about physical wealth, you know, because that's what most people are talking about most of the times. When you consider your wealth, you don't consider the things that you have not had to give away or to
That's
do.
a very good point.
You know, you have not had to pay thousands of millions of dollars in medical bills. You have not had to get your car repaired, or you have not had to, you know, get things repaired around your house. I mean, that's something that just this last week I have been just thrilled about, looking at the things that not only I've been able to do, but the things that I thought I might have to do,
Right.
and then they didn't happen. I was like, thank you. You know,
I think
that
that's a very good point, Shelley, because many times we only count our wealth in terms of what we are getting in. We never think about what we're not having to put out.
Yeah.
Because people make money, but they also have holes in their pockets
Right.
where the money comes in and goes out. And a lot of times, what is taking, well, let's ask the question. What are some ways in which people just simply just lose money? Unconsciously, just lose money. They're not even aware of, or even they're not losing money, but they're not aware of what's protecting them from losing that money. For example, I mean, health conditions is one of the major ways in which people lose money. Having to deal with legal situations
Right.
where you're in court or where you get tickets, you get stopped by a policeman. That's taking money out of your pocket.
Yes.
You know, accidents. As a matter of fact, friends, you know, losing a friend, or having friends that are always taking something from you, or taking time and energy, or discouragement. That is a way in which money can leave your life, and the fact is that you don't have those entanglements, like running up phone bills, you know. Things like that. I'm just thinking of a lot of different ways, habits,
Right.
and everything. So yeah, a lot of habits that people have,
Drinking and smoking,
excessive habits, that people have. When you think about it, when you begin to develop a wealth consciousness, and you live in a world of possibility, a world of grace, a world of belief, whereby you have this relationship with God and spiritual beings and things like that. There are so many ways in which that relationship keeps us from losing, which comes back to the fact of why people should tithe as a spiritual practice, because when you tithe according to the Bible, Malachi chapter 3, I think it says verse 8 through 12, when you bring your tithes into the storehouse, when you do that, God says, see, will I not open the windows of heaven and pour out upon you blessings? One of the ways in which God pour out blessings upon us is rebuking the devourer. That is, keeping things from happening in your life that take money from your account, your bank account. But people have problems and have a great deal of negativity about tithing, about church. They have a problem with that. We have a problem with that in the so-called black community. There's a lot of negativity associated with that. People have problems with other people having wealth or having things.
Yeah.
People have problems with that.
It's called
That
jealous.
it's called jealousy. You're like, right, envy. Now, how does this book address that?
Jealousy and envy.
How does this book address that mentality that that big old church there, those people go to that church, they have those nice things. I ain't giving no money to that church. I ain't doing nothing and everything. That's the problem with the world today. We have these churches in our community, and they're getting wealthy, and look at how poor the community is.
Well, with that type of attitude, they may as well not tithe anyway, because the Bible also say when you give, you should be a cheerful giver. So they may as well keep it to themselves if they're not going to be a cheerful giver.
They won't get a
receive
return.
blessings
That's
from
true.
it.
They won't get the exponential return by their attitude.
Yeah.
I think that goes to number 3. I had asked a question about does that say something about poor communities, whereas when they get money we hoard it because we're so not used to having it. We're scared it's gonna, if I give it away, I'm not gonna have. You have this fear of, like we said earlier, fear of lack. I gotta hold on to my little money because I can't afford to give it away. I don't get enough money. And I was thinking that maybe that has a reflection on maybe, let's say for instance, the community that you live in. When you have people, a whole community of people who have that attitude and that fear of, if I give you $1, I ain't gonna if I have $5 and I give you $1, I ain't gonna have $4 left. You know.
How would you instruct a person to overcome? What reason would you give them that help them overcome that type of fear? Why they should support institutions in their community? Because it's not just the church that's not being supported. It's also schools.
Well, that's what I was going to ask before I answer that question. What, how do you go about that if the institution is not doing anything for the community? I mean, there are institutions who are doing things for their community, but there are some, and I'm not talking about churches necessarily when I say that, there are some non-profit businesses who start non-profits just so they can give themselves a check. If you don't want to support that institution, or if you do support that institution, is it still beneficial to you giving money to a place that is not then giving back the service that they're supposed to be providing?
Anybody want to? I'd be happy to answer that. But anybody want to make a comment on that? You understand her question?
Yeah, I do. I'm just thinking.
Well, go ahead.
I think when you give, well, this is the way I am. I'll put it this way. When I give, whether it's to the church or to whomever, I give.
Right.
And whatever you do with it after that, it's on you.
That's right.
Let me ask you this: Why do you give to? For example, why do you give to your church or to? I don't know, maybe another institution that in your community. Why do you give in the first place? What's your reason?
My reason for giving is to see the church thrive, to see the church continue.
Why?
Because I love my church.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, I love what I get here. I love the teaching. I love the people here. And I want to see my church continue to help others as I've been helped.
Now, that is the principle.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because the church or that institution because you have eaten from the tree of knowledge of that institution, you have taken something from that institution.
Right.
Therefore, it is the principle of replenishing that which has supported you.
Right.
So it is an act of appreciation. It is an act of grace. You received, therefore you put back. You receive, you put back. You give because you have received, and you put back. It has invested into your life through maybe through its teachings or through its support of your life.
Okay,
therefore, So therefore, you put back what you have taken, so that it can continue to produce. In other words, it's following the principle of the seed and the soil.
Right. I think, okay, then to go back to your original question, I think that the reason that people have a problem, I'm not going to give to that church because I don't want to see, the pastor driving this and they live in this and I'm driving this and I'm living in that. Is that.
Right.
It goes back to the thing about jealousy.
Right.
They don't want to see their, their church. They know there are people in the church who have more money than them. And so they say, let them carry it, because they got it all or whatever, or the pastor, he doing fine. He got plenty. Well, I don't need to get the church no more money. The church doing okay. I'm not doing okay, And then that goes back to the thing Kim was talking about. If maybe the reason that you're not doing okay is because you're so selfish-minded of worrying about what everybody else has. Like we talked about, what's they got to do with my money, but in some cases, what other, not worrying about what the next person has, that's has something to do with your money.
And plus, like I said, if you give, not worrying about what they do with
Right.
it once it's given.
Right.
Because let me tell you what happened to me one time. I was at the service station, and this man had a gasoline can. And so he gave this long story, and he says, and I was getting gas. He said, do you mind putting some gas in my can so I can go pick my wife, or whatever he told me. And I freely gave it to him. So when I got home, I was telling my husband about it. He said, he was just scamming you. I said, well, maybe he was. I said, but I was happy and blessed that I could give it to him just in case. I didn't know. He could not. It could
That
not have been a
reminds me
scam.
of a Buddhist parable that it asks the question, why does the beggar beg? And the reason is that the beggar begs for your soul. In other words, one of the things that in this particular parable it points out is the fact that the possessions that we have actually keep our soul from evolving. And one of the reasons why there are beggars in our community, because that beggar is giving us an opportunity, or that beggar is actually a kind of an angel in disguise, giving us an opportunity to unleave ourselves, to relieve ourselves of the baggage of that stuff that we have identified with. So in one sense, the joy that you experienced was being held up by whatever that stuff was that you had that you gave away. That's why you felt the joy.
I did.
Right.
Well, that made me think about a situation. Well, it was many years ago. The church I used to attend, we went to Memphis for a pastor appreciation. And this man, and I always say, Lord, forgive me, because I mentally talk about the man, because he looked like what's the guy that sing with Prince? The movie where the
Morris Day.
Yeah, he dressed like Morris Day, and they were going up pinning money on him, and then they were asking for money, and they were like, y'all can give more. Then they were bringing tubs of paper towel and tissue and laundry detergent. I said, I'm not putting my money in there. And, we need to make sure we get home. And I'm just thinking, well, maybe there was a beggar, an angel in disguise. But I'm like, this man and his wife, they had on matching outfits. Her hat was decked out. And
the question really is that to those people who are under that man's ministry, who take from him and everything, they have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility, to put back what they have taken from him energetically.
Right.
So therefore,
they outfit, pink suit.
I don't need that. If y'all can just, take care of what you're supposed to take care
they
of,
about to
I'll
run
be
the
happy.
truck and everything.
But that was one of the questions that I had written down, is how important is the spirit in which you give?
Yeah.
Even with the, and we're talking about the book. So when you give, that goes back to the discussion we were having earlier about, people who are into illegal activities and giving. If the spirit in which you give is just, is because you're trying to cleanse yourself, or if it's just because, you know, you have it and you doing it out of obligation.
It goes back to what is your intention?
Or, right, what
is your intention?
How important is your intention to?
Well, I think the act of doing it is important. I don't want to diminish that. But I think you add a exponent, bonus points if you will, yes, to your gift when you give it with joy, when you give it with purpose, when you give it with levity, when you give it, as they say, cheerful.
Yeah.
Whatever you sow, you reap. Whatever you sow. So if you sow grudgingly, you reap grudgingly. So it's not so much what you give, it is also how you give, because the universe, or the law of attraction, says whatever you put out comes back to you. So yeah, because whatever, how you give it, and the spirit in which you do something determines, as you all know, y'all ladies, y'all know. So the person just says, here's your birthday, I got you some flowers. You got some flowers, be happy. Okay, you got the flowers if you like flowers. But if they say it and they give it with, you know, honey, baby, you know, I really appreciate what you mean in my life, and here's an expression, then your response back, at least that's what he's hoping for, your response back would be in like kind.
Yeah.
Now we're going to keep it nice for the camera.
It's like one of my favorite episodes. The kids like watching the Cosby Show when Vanessa brought Dabney home, and he told him, he said, you know, told Dabney, now what if I give you, you know, a steak and potatoes, all the fixing, smell good. Now imagine I gave it to you on the lid of a trash can. I took it out the nasty trash and gave it to you. That's how she brought you in here. That's right.
So how you do it, how you present it, makes it. Let's add another thing too, because we've been talking about giving money.
Yeah.
I think we also do need to bring in the idea that it's not just money that you give. It's also what? Your time and your talent.
Your talent.
People not only hold back their treasure, people hold back their time and the quality of their time. And the quality of their talent.
I think people withhold that more often than money, especially when it comes to serving and helping other people.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many people who would rather write you a check than come, or they say, you know, even if it's your birthday or something, they say, I can't come to your party, but I'm gonna send a gift card, because they just can't give you their time. When they don't want to give you their time, when they don't realize, you know, that love and energy that they might be sharing with you would probably be more valuable to some people at some times than a gift card.
And I think one of the great insight for chapter 1, the great insight chapter 1 is built on the idea that we live in a universe that recompenses. We live in a universe that the law of attraction, you know, that what you put out comes back. And we must understand that everything is carrying either I can hear Dr. Gibson said, the sephirotic force or the glyphotic force. It's carrying either positive energy or negative energy. Okay? And so we have to understand the law of the universe, the seed and the sower. We have to understand that how we give, what we give, be it our treasures, be it our time or our talent, is important. And to remember that by regularly giving away a small portion, remember, it's just 10%. It's just 10%. That prevents chaos from building up your life. Now let's think about this. And I know our time is running out, but let's think about this. Think about the people who have made or have won money. Who have won money like overnight and become wealthy overnight. Think about a lot of musicians and actors and people like that who have become very wealthy, and then look at the chaos that comes in their life because all of a sudden they have become wealthy. Number one, what happens? They attract negative friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Number two, they begin to indulge in activities because now they have
They
money.
lose themselves.
They now, that money actually begins to trigger something negative in them, and what am I saying? They trigger something negative in them, and they begin to do stuff that before, when they were poor and didn't have the money, that they didn't have the courage or the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
Now money has given them an opportunity to express a part of themselves that is,
It was dormant.
well, yeah, that was negatively dormant, that was dormant and negative in them. So it's kind of goes like what Biggie Small, Notorious B.I.G. says: more money, more problems. And ultimately, what it comes down to is that many people have not been prepared for wealth.
Right.
And they have identified, that is, material things. They have identified themselves with what they are. With what they have. That's why they can't give it. That's why they can't give it up. Because ultimately, people don't know who they are. That's why the beggar begs. That's why the beggar comes in your life. That's why the situation exists, to give you an opportunity to not identify with the things you have. You are more than your possessions.
I think, on that note that you were talking about, and about the feelings that people have about money, and goes back to something Kim was saying at the beginning. I think that it would be irresponsible if we did not discuss that, even though we've talked about money in relation to, the negative attachments that have to physical money and all those things, that we need to also discuss that there are people out there who do have negative ideas about money, and their families have negative associations with money, and what they can do to remove them and help, help work on that.
I think also in the same thing, we need to also recognize that money and the energy of money and the need for money has been a blessing. I mean, think about the things that money can allow you to do
Right.
if you have it.
Right.
Which is the reason why we really need to become very positive about money.
Right.
Money is not necessarily in and of itself evil.
Right.
The
Like
root
you
of all
said, you
evil.
have to. Right,
No,
you
matter of
have
fact,
to
the Bible doesn't even say
understand how
money is the root
manage
of all
it.
evil. The Bible doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. That is a misquote. Reverend Ike would also add to that and say the lack of money is the root of all evil. Now, I'm going to tell you something. People really need to go back and listen to the sermons or the messages of Reverend Ike. Reverend Ike was ahead of his time. I would, on YouTube, just go and just put Reverend Ike in there and listen to things he says. Reverend Ike was ahead of his time. But my point I'm trying to get us to talk about, Deidre Ginyard talked about philanthropy. And I like what she said about philanthropy, how she tries to do philanthropic type of activities based upon having read Dr. Gibson's book. And I think that we need to understand, too, that we need money. The Bible says money is the answer to everything in a wisdom sense. And so, yeah, we need money. This church needs money. I need money. You need money. You need money to be able to give your children access to certain resources and certain institutions that can make them better. So we need to be very pro-money,
Right.
Yeah.
not anti-money.
Right.
You might want to add anything
I
to
think
that?
in the black community we're very anti-money. It's like, I think it kind of goes back to the thing about jealousy. It's like, I don't know what it is, but when we see, for instance, if I see Shelly one day come pull up in a nicer car than I
It's like a
have.
Jaguar.
Yeah, like a Jaguar. It's all of a sudden you don't say, "Oh, Shelly, congratulations!
Yeah.
You know, you deserve that car." You sitting there thinking, "Well,
You say you
how
can't
did
be
she
our
get
friend no
that
more
right?"
because we in the date
Right.
club.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
got rid of your Diddy
instead
car,
you look at
so-
them, you say, and you form this negative opinion about them, like, well, how did she get that car? You know, you look at them like your pocket, my pockets and your pockets are the same. How you how can you afford to get it and I don't have it? And we do, or we'll say, oh, well, you know, she thinks she's too good for us now. She got a Jaguar, you know, she can't hang out with us. Or a Mercedes. She can't hang out with us anymore. And I think, like, this attitude is passed down from generation to generation. Black people have this attitude where
if you're poor, you're closer to God.
There you go.
Yeah,
there
that's
you
what
go.
I think is
there
more.
you go.
So
if you're poor,
I
you're
think
closer to
people-
God.
And that is a lie.
People that got wealth, oh, they stuck up, or they think they're too good, or they're this and they're that. We carry that attitude. So you want wealth, and it's like you want wealth, but then you got to suppress it because you thinking about all your family. Well, if I get this car, then somebody gonna say something about me. It's we carry that around.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't give yourself the things that you want or that you may even deserve just because
you think
evil. Yeah, because
that's what I like
or you think
about
your family gonna say something about.
That's what I like about this first chapter of that Insights. It forces us to think through our disempowering attitudes about wealth and money. And I'm telling you something. I want, and we should all want, to see wealthy institutions that have more than enough to meet their needs. It's important that you have a church that has wealth, schools that have a wealth, to be in an environment that is wealthy. Because what that means is, listen, I hate to say it this way, but this is another quote that Reverend Ike said. He said, a poor man can do very little he said nothing for you. That's why you need to have wealthy friends. Because a wealthy friend can be a friend to you in a time of need. It's important. I mean, there are many times I know people may come to like an institution like this to church, and they'll say, well, we need this and that. And I consider to tell them, we don't have it. We, think about what we could do, because we have a good heart, have a good direction, that if we had an abundance of wealth, where we weren't living from hand to mouth, trying to survive each week, appealing to people, begging them to support that which is supporting them. Think about what you could do for educating your children that attend your institution, taking them places. Think about what you could do for the married couples here, single couples here. Think about what you can do think about the good that you can do.
Right. I think that's ultimately what I took from this chapter that Dr. Gibson wrote, because I've heard him say before that, one of the things that, if they could make a perfect world, there would be no money. Not the monetary system that we have now. Because if we start to look at wealth and money with a more positive attitude, and people who have a beautiful wealth consciousness start to build our physical wealth, then we turn around all of those things. We have the power and the position to turn around things like war. And, like you said, a man with no money can't do nothing. If we have the wealth, then we have that physical power, some control over things where we can start to make a change in those things, like drugs and slavery. And if
you women were honest and could be honest in front of the camera, you don't want a broke man.
No, look at it. Ain't no shame right.
And a man doesn't want a broke woman.
Absolutely not.
In the sense of not necessarily about her money, but I'm talking about in terms of her time and her talent.
Right.
And the gifts that she has.
A man does not want a broke woman more so than a woman. A woman will be like, oh, Lord, it's okay, we can build up together.
Yeah, exactly.
But a man, he'll jump over you.
I beg to differ on that.
Well, okay.
We're not talking about when you were in the 10th grade. No, when you meet your husband, when y'all in the 2nd grade. Nobody's expecting you to have no money in the 2nd grade.
There's a book. I don't have it in front of me now, but there's a book that I would encourage you to read, everybody to read, people on the camera to buy. It's called Unlimited Wealth. It's almost like a companion to what Dr. Gibson's book has. It's called Unlimited Wealth. It's written by a guy named Paul Zane Pilzer. And in that, he gives a definition of wealth that I will, give you now. He says that he gives the formula for wealth as W for wealth equals PR, physical resource, times technology with the exponent N above the T. Wealth equals physical resources times technology to the nth power. Now, what that means to me, that true wealth is not necessarily physical. It has a physical component to possess something. Everybody possesses something. But it's not wealth until you know how to use technology in relationship to other technology, already existing technologies, to transform it from its original state into something else. This is called alchemy. Alchemy. And so with know-how, because technology is know-how, technology takes a physical resource like sand and can turn it into a computer chip or glass. Physical technology that is know-how can transform a stick into a fishing pole. It can transform oil into gasoline. That's what technology is. So therefore, the ultimate wealth that you and I have is knowledge. Therefore, the development of your mind, the development of your soul is your ultimate wealth. And when you give your time and your talent and your treasure, and you give it, you're also putting it into the universe that inspires somebody else, and they take what you have done and they add on to it. That's how we create wealthy institutions. I feel like one of the great mistakes that people make is that they hold themselves back, and we don't build relationships. Right. Amos Wilson, who's an author of many books, Amos Wilson, he said this, that what makes a thriving economic system is not money, it's relationships. Quality relationships build a prosperous economic system. And I think one of the biggest reasons why there is so much poverty in so many neighborhoods because the people's relationships are broken down. Right. Yeah. Money is a trust. People don't trust each other. Money is currency. People don't have the exchange and flow of giving and receiving exchange among each other. And therefore we create these strokes within our community where people do not give back what they have given or what has been given to them. And it does not cause the dollar to circulate in our communities. Because, and that is why the chaos and the negativity stays in the community. And it breeds violence, it breeds more poverty, it breeds illiteracy, it breeds ignorance. And people can't seem to get out of it. But if we related to one another, and this is what a church is all about, where you give your time, your talent, your treasure, I give my time, my talent, and treasure, and we communicate with one another in belief and love and trust, guess what we end up doing? Transforming ourselves and creating more abundance that we can share with more people, and it just spreads, it grows. Right. It grows. And I think that is the value of understanding chapter 1 of 9 Insights, by developing a positive mental attitude about wealth, about things, about money, that contribute not just my own personal happy, successful life, but collectively. Yeah. Okay, y'all. Anybody want to share anything else before we shut it down and say goodbye to everybody until next week? Okay. Well, next week we'll be at chapter 2, and we want to encourage everybody to start reading chapter 2 of 9 Insights, and we're going to be right back next week. Chapter 2 Insight will say, the energy of your life will be consumed by the forces of chaos and order. The chaos that you make, the choices that you make will determine the force dominant with that dominates your life. Let me read that again. The energy of your life will be consumed by the forces of chaos and order. The choices that you make will determine which force dominates your life. That is going to be a great discussion. We look forward to seeing and being with you next week, everybody. And
don't forget to send your comments to.
By all means,
Grace.
send your comments to, and that is your comments about this discussion and also about the one next week, to the Mind of Grace PB at gmail.com. Until then, everybody say bye.
Bye.
All right.